Okay, so here we are. Um, we're back with another episode of My Father, My Hero, and tonight we are going to hear from Mary Caesar, one of my coworkers, who's going to share a little bit about her father's influence on her life. And for those of you who don't know who I am or what I do, I'm Robin Mahoney, and my podcast is My Father, My Hero. And I started doing this in honor of my own father, who passed away unexpectedly in 2019, and just as a means to keep his story continue to be told, and to hear the stories of other women who have had fathers that have been heroes in their lives and have positively impacted them into adulthood. And so I'm going to now turn the time over to Mary. And if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we can get into the conversation about your dad.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, Robin. I appreciate it. My name is Mary Caesar, as Robin mentioned, and I am originally from New York. I was born and raised in New York City, and I am a Texas transplant. Happy to be here. Um, Never thought I'd see myself teaching. This is my second career. My first career was working in various law firms, and coming into Texas has changed my life for the better.
Hmm.
I've bounced all around the United States and Panama, but
Oh, nice.
Texas is home. I'm
Okay.
sorry?
I said, nice. I didn't know you were in Panama.
hmm I lived in Panama for 6 months.
Oh, nice. Nice, nice. So you must like hot weather because New
That's why I
York does
moved.
not have hot weather. New York is cold, but I like to be cold in the wintertime. It just makes it normal to have a change of seasons. My grandmother used to live in Buffalo, New York, many, many, many
Ooh,
years ago. Yeah, I would go in the summer. I never experienced a Buffalo winter. And she ended up relocating to South Carolina when she retired because it was just too harsh. Too harsh. They had moved from Pittsburgh to Buffalo, and so it was just too much. But um enough about me walking down memory lane. I would love to hear about your dad and how he impacted your life. So if you just want to start by telling us a little bit about, well, I'd like to know his name
hmm
and where he grew up and when he grew up, just to provide some context um, around how his life, how he was living his life at that
Right.
time. You know, it makes a difference, like when they
It,
lived and what was going
hmm
on.
Well, his name is Charles Hall Jr., and he was born and raised in New York. His dad was in the military. That's all he knew was military. It's amazing that they weren't shuffled around like most military individuals were. My dad was born in 1946.
Okay.
So he grew up during a harsh time for African Americans. And even though it was harsh for him, growing up in that time frame, he also went into the military. And at that time, they had the Vietnam War going on. Now, my dad is the oldest of three children, and it's relevant because he had a younger brother. Now, during the time, they never let both boys go into the service because they believed in the continuity of family. And my brother told my uncle, I'm sorry, my father told my uncle, do not enlist.
Mm-hmm.
He specifically told his younger brother, do not enlist. And lo and behold, my uncle did it anyway. So there was a minor falling out between the two of them based on that. But they eventually made up. But when my dad got home from the Vietnam War, he wasn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
He was not the same. Um, they won't talk about it. My dad
Mm-hmm.
never talked about his experiences over there. And to this day, my uncle won't talk about it. My dad passed away in, gosh, I have to remember. My dad passed away about 20 years ago.
Wow.
And they say it was from age related pneumonia.
Hmm.
So, needless to say, whatever, however he was before he left,
Mm-hmm.
when he got back from Vietnam, he wasn't the same person. Um, he had gotten involved in drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he got involved in drugs while he was over in Vietnam or when he came back. I'm inclined to believe that he got involved when he came back because of some of the atrocities that he saw when he was over there. Okay. Things that I can ask my uncle about now. My uncle, well, baby, you don't need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was so long ago,
Mm-hmm.
to ask about it is to relive it.
Right.
And my uncle won't do that to me. He won't share with me. But
Mm-hmm.
I believe in asking about it and asking him to share with me, then I would get a greater understanding of what my dad went through, of
Mm-hmm.
what impacted my father, that he went through so much. Um, Even to the point where when my brother was born in 67 and he was still in 67. And he told my mother, don't come to Germany. Do not come over here. And that's where he was before he got back stateside. He told my mother, don't come.
Mm-hmm.
She went anyway. And I'm like, okay, so what transpired between his time in the service and his time getting out of the service? You know,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't in my life. And I don't take that as a negative. You
Mm-hmm.
know, whereas most people, most especially most African American females, they would take that as a negative. I don't take it as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
I take it that whatever transpired between his time in the service and getting back stateside, trying to work out this issue between a strong African American woman and him having his own, for lack of a better word, his own level of demons that came
Mm-hmm.
back with him, they just couldn't make it.
So
They just couldn't make it.
were you born before he went to Vietnam or when he came
No,
back?
I was born when he got back.
Okay.
So I was born, he went to Nam and then he transitioned to Germany
Mm-hmm.
and then he came stateside.
Okay.
So I don't know any of his life while he was in the service.
How old were you when your parents split up? Did they divorce or did they just separate or
They, I want to say that they just split,
Mm-hmm.
um, because he never remarried. Neither one of them ever remarried.
Mm-hmm.
So they just split up. And I was a baby
Oh.
because I don't ever remember having my father in the house with me.
Mm-hmm. Were you able to visit with him at all?
I visited with him while he was in New York
Mm-hmm.
because he came back. He lived in New York for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw him off and on during that time. He lived with my grandparents. So, and I was always close with my grandparents. So while
Mm-hmm.
he was in New York, I went to go see him. I spent time with him. And even to the extent, and this is why I say I don't know what transpired between him and my mom, because
Mm-hmm.
my mom got to the point where she didn't want me to go see my grandparents because
Oh.
she knew he was going to be there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I went anyway,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was with him, it was just him and I. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he didn't. You know how some men hold, if the animosity is between them and the mother, they take it out on a child. He
Yes.
did. He didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was still his baby girl.
Oh,
You know, whatever was going on between him and my mom, he always let me know that it's between me and your mother. It has nothing
right,
to do with you.
right.
You know, so I never, growing up, going to see him at my grandparents, I didn't feel as though my dad was absent until he moved to a different state where I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
go visit him.
Where you
And
end up moving to?
he moved to Maryland,
Okay.
some some city in Maryland. I don't remember. But at that time he moved when I was coming into my teenagehood,
Mm-hmm.
when I needed him the most. And at that time he moved with another female that had a daughter the same age that I was.
Okay.
So although he was, he let me know that growing up I was still his baby girl. In my mind, what does she have that you
Right.
can raise her, but you can't be here for me?
Right.
You know,
And what was your brother? Was your brother already grown and gone, or was he still kind of?
my
Was he able
brother,
to be somewhat of a role model for you too, or no?
no, my brother, my brother is 4 years older than I was,
Okay.
and there were things that my brother got involved in that he could not have shown me. Not at
Right.
14. He
Right.
couldn't show me anything at, he was a teenage boy trying to circumnavigate the 1970s in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And, some people don't quite understand that Harlem wasn't a good place, not the
Yeah.
70s and 80s. And
Yeah.
even when we moved to the Bronx, South Bronx, not a good place, not good
Mm-hmm.
places. You know, the one
Mm-hmm.
constant I had that was a connector to my dad was my grandfather and my uncle,
Okay.
you know. So I was able to get a glimpse of my dad's life prior to the military
Mm-hmm.
from my grandfather and my uncle, you know.
And that, when he came
I'm sorry, go ahead.
back, oh no, I was just thinking when he came back, what was his trade? I know I was going to ask you what he did at Vietnam in Vietnam, but I already know that the majority of those soldiers, everybody was an infantryman for the most part, or a combat medic or something. They were out there on the
Hmm.
line. So when he came back, what was his trade?
My dad was a sharpshooter in Nam.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what transpired, but he was discharged. He wasn't dishonorably discharged, but he
Mm-hmm.
was discharged from the army. So I can only surmise that some things went down in Nam that he wasn't supposed to do,
Maybe,
and that
but
got him.
they all get discharged though. Like once the war's over, so
Yeah,
just
it wasn't a dishonorably discharge, but they wouldn't honor him. They it wasn't. I looked at his DD 214. I
Mhm.
looked at his 214 a while back, and it did say it wasn't a dishonorable discharge,
Was it
but it was a
under other than honorable or a general?
something like that.
Yeah.
It was something other than dishonorable,
Okay.
and
Which was
without
kind of
me,
common during that time.
see, it's, I'm not even surprised. And I really haven't wanted to go into his military record
Mhm.
even though I believe as his daughter, I should have a right to be able to see his military record. But you know
Mhm.
what, Robin? It's not important to me.
Right.
It's not important to me. Um, he did the best he could
Mhm.
with what he had.
Mhm.
I've come to terms with him raising my stepsister, even though him and her mom was never married. I still consider her my stepsister.
Mhm.
I've come to terms with that. And I'm like, you know what? There was a time when I needed him, and I've come to understand that he could not give me what I needed because of his own issues. And I firmly believe, in fact, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that had he stayed, he probably would have done more damage. You
Mhm.
know, we sometimes hold our parents to this level that they're perfect,
Mhm.
even when we know that some of the things that they say and do is wrong. We still don't want to look at them as though they're not perfect. And
Mhm.
then they fall off of our preconceived pedestal. They
Mhm.
never fell off of our pedestal. They never put themselves out there that they were perfect. They put
Right.
themselves out there as doing the best they can for what
Mhm.
information they had, for where they could be. They did
Mhm.
the best they could, you know?
Mhm.
So when we come to that realization, you know,
You end up
yeah.
having empathy. I think like as especially like as I've gotten older, especially with my mother, I have so much more empathy for her and what she was going through as she got older as I get older because you begin
Mhm.
to see things that as children we don't see. And
Yes.
you know, even like with my dad, he was not perfect and he never professed to be perfect, but in my mind as a child and then growing up as a teenager and a young adult and him being like very present, very involved, my best friend through so much, he just was really in all of his imperfections my hero,
Mhm.
you know. And
Yeah.
I think that, you know, all of us and like knowing you and knowing your background and things that you have arrived at who you are through influences
Mhm.
of our parents, whether that be good or bad. You know, those interactions and the time spent or the time not spent has helped to
Mhm.
fashion us, you know, helped us become who we are now. And so that's why I was
Yeah.
curious because you have a very interesting background where you were, you know, working in the legal field and then crossed over into education. So that's why I was wondering, like, what your dad did for a job. Like, what was his trade when he
Mhm.
came back from Vietnam? Um, like, what did he do for
Never had
work?
one.
Was he
Never
in?
had one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Never had one. My grandfather was a mechanic,
Mm-hmm.
but my dad never worked that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Never, let me rephrase that. Never did any legal work that I know of.
Mm-hmm. And do
How he
you
got his
think
money,
that's
I don't
because?
know. Go ahead.
And do you think that's because he was probably shattered from Vietnam? And so a lot of Vietnam vets, we look at, well, I say we, I understand the heroism in the Vietnam veterans. Like I've
Mhm.
constantly said that those are the real war heroes.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's interesting because my father desperately wanted to go to Vietnam, but his brother was he wanted to join the Marines and go to Vietnam,
Mhm.
but his brother was in the Air Force and he was already in England. And my grandmother begged him, you know, just let it go, don't go.
Mhm.
So he ended up going the Secret Service route. But I
Okay.
have found like letters, where he's counting down the days until he's going to be eligible to go to Paris Island because he really
Mm,
wanted to go. But I'm kind of like, when I listen to you talk about your dad or when I hear people share other stories, I don't know that I would have had the same father had
right.
he gone to Vietnam and come
Mhm.
back. I don't know that I'd even have been born if he had gone to
Right.
Vietnam and come back, because there's always that chance that they didn't come
Mhm.
back, you
Yep.
know? But your father had to have some pretty tough skin, some pretty um dug in like resolve, because he did make it back.
Yeah. You
And so
know,
that in of itself is, heroic in my mind, knowing what I know about Vietnam.
when you first asked me to be on this show, and I was like, well, my dad really wasn't in my life, and I had to rethink that.
Hmm.
And initially, I'm like, he wasn't there for me. But I had to, like I said, rethink that because I had to look at it that had he been there, had he been in my life during the time when I needed him, like in my teens, would I be the individual that I am now? Would I be able to stand
Hmm.
through adversity? Would I have been able to make it on my own, living? Would I even be 50, would I even be 56?
Hmm.
Okay. Because the statistics say that I should not have made it out of Harlem with a degree, with my high school diploma, with no kids.
Downstairs on the thing. I'm sorry.
That's what no, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the statistics say. I should not have made it out of Harlem without being on welfare.
Hmm.
3.4 kids, however you do that, on
Hmm.
welfare with 2 degrees.
Hmm.
I shouldn't be here. But would I be here had my father stayed? He
True.
made an impact on my life. He absolutely did make an impact on my life. He showed me that the best way to move and get ahead
Hmm.
is through education. Stay there.
Right. And did you have those conversations with him? Like, I know you mentioned he moved to Maryland, but you were still in contact with him by phone or letters, or you still it wasn't like he just completely dropped away, right? You still were in
He,
contact.
no, not until he came to New York. And he didn't come to New York that often.
Okay.
He, he would come to New York maybe 2, 3 years, and then he would be in Maryland, and then he'll come back another 2, 3 years. My grandparents would have to call me to let me know your dad's here.
So do
Your
you
dad's here.
think part of him that he was ashamed of something, that he viewed himself maybe um in a light that he didn't think that you could possibly be proud of him, and so maybe that's why he created some distance?
It's possible. It's
Mm-hmm.
very possible. And the other part of that is, and I still believe that there was still a level of um, animosity between him and my mother
Mm-hmm.
by the fact that she never wanted me to go see my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
She never wanted me to go see my grandparents. And my grandfather, I'm like, I'm going to see my grandfather. I'm going to see
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother too, but I'm going to see my grandfather more,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, and I'm like, you can't stop me. My
Mm-hmm.
my middle school, I had to take a bus to get to middle school. My middle school, the bus I had to take went right
Mm-hmm.
past their house, right past their street. I'm getting
Oh.
off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's good.
I'm getting off the bus. I'm doing what I need to do to stay connected to the lineage that I have.
Right. And so your grandfather, did he provide you with like some insight into your dad? You mentioned earlier that you had your uncle and your grandfather, so they could give you some insight about your dad prior to his Vietnam experience.
They always told me how much fun he had, how much
Mhm.
fun he was. And in listening to them, I understood where I got my dark sense of humor from,
Mhm.
because my father would play a practical joke on people and sit there and act like it wasn't him.
Mhm.
You
Throw the
know,
rock and hide his hand.
so when I look at people and I just smile and I'm like, Mary, you can't say that, you can't do that. I realize it's my father's influence with the practical jokes that's
Mhm.
coming through. And I'm like, man, if you only knew, you know,
That's
but
funny.
people don't see that in me. They see the strong part,
Mhm.
but they don't see the part that I'll play a practical joke on you in a minute and just laugh at you, laugh with you, you know,
Mhm.
and understand that there's no harm in it. So I see that. I see that. And I see that I do get that from my dad, just from the stories that I've been told. You know?
Mhm. And I'm sure that the experience in Vietnam, if he was a lighthearted, kind of carefree person, that that whole nightmare over there changed people. And
Yeah.
so, you know, like a little bit of his light was probably put out.
You
And
know,
I,
they wouldn't, like I said, my uncle and my dad wouldn't tell me, but I spent hours talking to my grandfather, and my grandfather would say, baby, don't hold it against him. Don't hold it against him. This
and,
isn't who he was.
and you know, the whole Vietnam experience with the Viet Cong and with just being in country and the things that they were having to do was
Yeah.
one thing. But then also internally, the racism that was still
Mm-hmm.
very present in the army and the
Yes.
services at that time was like a whole nother layer of stress and despair,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. And even though it was the 1970s, I'm sure that New York was a little bit more progressive than probably the rest of the country at that time, other than maybe California. But so having to battle both of those things mentally was could take a toll on a person. I think
Yeah.
everybody has a limit. And once that switch flips, it's like there's no going back.
No.
um our minds and our nervous systems are only designed to take so much. And during that time, the American people, their whole attitude towards those
Mm-hmm.
the guys serving in Vietnam, and when they came back, they were spit on and treated like garbage,
Mm-hmm.
not looked at as heroes. So there was a whole lot going on that would easily trigger anybody,
Yep.
into going into like a retreat mode and being ashamed of having been a part of any of it. And what's so ironic is that if you ever read about it and research, like to me as a veteran, those are American heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but curiously, so you said your dad passed away, what, about 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Um, were you able to go to his funeral, or were you able to be a
Oh
part
yeah.
of anything?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. He wanted to be he wanted to be cremated, and
Mhm.
we had a memorial for him and everything. And I mean, I didn't want him cremated, but it was what his girlfriend at the
Mhm.
time, that's what they spoke about, and I honored that. And for a while after the cremation, his ashes bounced around.
Aw.
His sister had them, and then my cousin had them, and finally his sister was like, I have your dad's ashes. Do you want them?
Mhm.
And I said, sure, I will take them. Unfortunately, because of the way he was discharged from the army, we couldn't get a flag, which I still want that. I still want that part of him, but I don't think I'll ever be able to get it.
I'm gonna make
But
a note. I might be able to help you get it. I'm just making a note. I'm serious, like seriously. We might be able to help you get it. I'm listening. Okay. I promise you I'm gonna look into that.
um, um, thank you.
Hmm. I'll
Thank
start looking into it tomorrow. I'll give you my word on that.
you. You know, and I traveled the country with my dad's ashes. Wherever I was going to, I packed his ashes with me, and I took them with me
Hmm.
from New York to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to Panama, all over. And finally, I'm like, you know what? Because my dad, because of who my dad was, he couldn't sit still.
Hmm.
I finally found a body of water to dump his ashes in the water
Hmm.
because he was always moving. My
Hmm.
dad never my dad, I don't remember him ever sitting still for long.
Hmm.
So, I dumped his ashes in the Rio Grande.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
like, you know what? I'm like, that's fitting. That's fitting. And I'm like, I don't have any regrets about the way I was raised. I don't have any regrets. You know,
Hmm.
it, and like I said, when you asked me, I was like, my dad wasn't. I'm like, okay, sure, my dad wasn't in my life, but that's okay. And now, just thinking and talking about it, I'm like, you know what?
Hmm.
My dad was my hero.
Hmm.
He was my hero. And I can't I can't say that he wasn't. Life circumstances happened. They happened.
Hmm.
He did the best he could with what he had, and he raised me indirectly, but he still raised me.
That's right. And
Mhm.
you are his legacy. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people like everybody's broken
Mhm.
in some way. And I think that a lot of healing can come from some revelation, um, some enlightenment, some peace. We always talk about the inner child. And I think that's more like childhood experiences or memories or things that keep us stuck in a broken place. And once as we get older and come to terms with
Mhm.
those things and have a little bit more understanding, we can really heal from that and be set free and know that nobody's perfect. Everybody's situation is different. And just like you said, our parents did the best that they could with the information they had at the
Yeah.
time. And they were growing up while with us. Like
Mhm.
they were raising us and still growing up. My dad was
Mhm.
born in 1946 like your dad. So our parents were young, in their 20s. And you don't know anything in your 20s. You're just trying to figure things out. you know?
And then you
Um,
get thrown into this war.
right. Where you have to, you're doing things that you never thought you would have to do, that you don't understand why you're doing it, but you're
Yeah.
ordered to do it. You were forced to go, the draft and all
Mhm.
the things that people don't experience in the military now. And
Yeah.
so it's amazing for anybody, and highly unlikely for anybody to come away from that particular scenario in Vietnam whole.
Yeah.
So, um, but what I want to do, I'm going, like I said, I'm going to get the ball rolling to find out what we need to do to get your dad a flag. And then I also, you can text it to me if you want to. I need his full name, because what I'd like to do is what I do, when my dad passed away, I was desperate for
Mhm.
some way to memorialize his existence here,
Yeah.
because like we're all just a story that somebody
Mhm.
decides to keep telling, you know? Pictures get lost, things fall away, and people are forgotten. And so I found an organization, it's a Jewish organization, and they plant trees in Israel. And so I had a tree planted in honor of my father in Israel. And
Okay.
so what I started doing was, when people's parents pass away or loved ones, instead of flowers, I was like, planting a tree in honor of their loved one. So I'm hoping all the trees are like together somewhere over there.
Mhm.
But I would like to do that for you, and they'll send you a little a certificate so you can, hang it up and just think about your dad. And um yeah, I would just like to do that, just to thank you for your time and for sharing your dad's story, because
Thank
I
you.
know it's not easy to talk through a lot of these things, but I think there's some healing that comes with it. And I think that there's some inspiration that comes with it for other people when they hear your story. So just if you'll get that to me, like if you'll text it to me or give it to me tomorrow, I'll get
Mhm.
that in the works too.
Will do. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, I
I
appreciate
really
you, and
do.
thank you so much. I know it took a minute for us to get together and get this done, but I'm so grateful um, that you were willing to do this, and I'm blessed and honored, to hear about your dad's service. And I salute him, because, like I said, in
Yeah.
my mind, as a veteran, Vietnam vets are the real war
Okay.
heroes. So,
Well, thank you for
okay,
having me. I appreciate it.
you're welcome. Was there anything else that you wanted to share, or?
Um, no, just this has been good for me to revisit, to really, because I haven't looked at my dad's life in a minute, but to
Mhm.
revisit has reaffirmed that he did a good job.
That's
He
it.
did a good job.
And you're living proof of it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, dear. Well, we're gonna end it. Thank you again. I hope everybody who listens to this is as moved and inspired as I am this evening. And we will just talk in the next one.
Yes,
But
ma'am. Have
thank
a
you,
good
dear. I
night.
appreciate you. You too, dear. Good night.